I'm Mrs. Davis, and I am thankful that you are joining me here today in the Happy Place to Grow, where it's the month of November, and this channel is all about learning and growing and finding out information together. So since it's November, I thought that it would be really important for us to talk about one very special holiday that a lot of people participate in the month of November. Here's a clue. We've got turkeys. It's all about the food, family, football. Oh yeah, it's Thanksgiving time. Do you love Thanksgiving? Are you thankful for turkey and pumpkin pie? Thanksgiving is definitely one of my favorite times of the year. I love the food, the smells, the fall leaves that have fallen to the ground. I love my family coming over. And it's always a great time for me to stop and reflect and be thankful. But as I was thinking about a book I wanted to share with you, I was wondering how much you know about how the holiday of Thanksgiving actually got started. A lot of people think about the Pilgrims, the Indians, the Mayflower, the first Thanksgiving in America, but why do we celebrate it in the month of November, and when did it become official? Well, that got me to be a little bit curious. You know how I am. I love to always know the facts and the reasons behind the holidays and celebrations. And so I was looking up when Thanksgiving actually sort of officially got started. Do you know? It was started, I guess you would say it was birthed with a president. There was a president that really felt like the country had went through some hard times. We had just finished a war, the Civil War, and President Abraham Lincoln felt like our country back in 1863, our country needed healing and hope and a time of peace. And so he declared the fourth Thursday a day of Thanksgiving, a day for people to stop and reflect. But it didn't actually become a holiday until 1941, when it was voted that it should be a legal holiday. So it's always the fourth Thursday. You can count on it. Fourth Thursday in November, it's going to be Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving can be a time that you are with your family, you're enjoying food, maybe you go on a trip, maybe you go on a holiday together. Thanksgiving can be whatever you want it to be. There are traditional foods that we eat on Thanksgiving, but you can make that day whatever celebration that you and your family, whatever you want to do. But it's a time for us to just be grateful, thankful, stop and just appreciate all of the wonderful things that we have in life. Our family, our country, food, shelter, our pets. It's time for us just to think about being together. And I think it's just such a warm and wonderful holiday. So I thought it would be fun to share with you this quick little book. I've had it for a really long time. It's very used. I used to use it in my classroom with my students. It's called Thanksgiving Is. And it's a reflection of all the things that make up the Thanksgiving celebration. in this easy-to-read scholastic book. So let's enjoy this time together. Oh, before we get started, you're going to hear some vocabulary words in this book. So let's just review. You're going to hear the word Mayflower. That was the ship that a group of people sailed on to go to the new land, the new world. Some of them were Puritans. We called them the Pilgrims, but there were other people on board this ship too that wanted to go to the new world, which we call, it's our home now, United States of America. But at one time, it was just a land that was waiting to be discovered and developed. To travel there from the country of England, people had to sail over an ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. The landing spot was what we call now Plymouth, Massachusetts, and there was a rock in the harbor called the Plymouth Rock, and the year was 1620. We often think about a group of religious people leaving and making a pilgrimage or a religious travel. So we call the group of people, they were just a group of people, believers. Their official religion was, they were Puritans. They were traveling for religious freedom, so we called them the Pilgrims. And they didn't always dress like this. That was just sometimes their Sunday dress. A group of Indians that were living in that area at the time, the Wampanoag Indians, who eventually helped and worked with the Pilgrims so they could survive. They formed a friendship. They helped each other. And after that first really hard year, they brought in a harvest, and they wouldn't have been able to even harvest without the help of the Indians, showing them how to cultivate and grow food on the land in Plymouth, Massachusetts was a lot different than England. So, and the way that the Pilgrims or the Puritans or the travelers planted seeds in England would not work in the new land. So the Indians helped them. There was a Thanksgiving, a time of giving thanks for all of the food and provision that would help the people, this group of Puritans and others, survive in the winter. They were thankful, and it was a feast. But it didn't just last one day, and there was more than turkey on the table. There was definitely shellfish, maybe some lobster, and definitely some deer brought by the Indians. And this Thanksgiving feast lasted for 3 days. There was games and shooting of muskets, challenges, feasting. Oh, yeah. So very different from, some things were like our Thanksgiving today, but things were probably very different too. All right, let's enjoy Thanksgiving Is. Thanksgiving is. It is the fourth Thursday in November, and so it is Thanksgiving. And that's tried and true. You can count on that. The fourth Thursday in the month of November is always Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a long word to spell. There it is. It's really made up of 2 words, thanks and giving. In other words, giving thanks. Longer than Pilgrim or Mayflower or even New England. That was the place they landed. And they were from England, so they called this place New England. It was a new chance for them to start a new life. Thanksgiving is many travelers on a small ship. Remember that word, Mayflower? The name of the ship was the Mayflower. And there it is. On board, some are pilgrims, some are not. 70 men and women, 32 children, wow, that's brave, 2 dogs, no cats, and a few hens. Looks very crowded. They had to take all their supplies with them because they didn't know what they were going to find on the other side of the ocean. All on the Mayflower together. The year is 1620. I love how this ship on the inside, it's like if you take the wall down, all of the little spaces and rooms, look how crowded the bottom of the ship was, had lots of supplies. And the travelers had to stay in the bottom sections where it was dark and damp. And they couldn't really heat the boat. And they were traveling later in the year. So, yeah, it would be a tough travel. Thanksgiving is tall hats with brims and ties on shoes, cloaks in the wind, and long aprons too. Thanksgiving is stiff wide collars, some white on gray. That would be their Sunday dress for sure. But they dressed as all of the people of their time when they were working and building and playing on Sunday or their Sabbath. They definitely dressed differently. But we think about them, always when we think about the pilgrims, we think about them being in their black and their white and their buckle shoes. But they had to work too. And Thanksgiving is a land left behind so pilgrims can worship the Pilgrim Way. So they had to give up family, friends, their livelihood, their homes, their security they wanted to pursue a new life in a new land where they could worship God, worship and believe the way they wanted. And in England, the king was really in charge of all things, and the king wanted all the people of England to worship and use all of the same churches, and they wanted religious freedom. So they were willing to give up everything to travel to the unknown. It's pretty brave. I don't know if I would have been as brave. What about you? Thanksgiving is a long, long trip. Some travelers are cold, some are wet, some are sick. Down in the bottom of the ship where they had to stay, it was dark, damp. I'm sure the boat leaked a little bit. So they were probably cold, hungry. Sometimes when you were traveling, you couldn't cook on the ship back then. And I'm sure some of the food was, not as fresh. Yeah. So it wasn't like being on a cruise ship for sure. It was a hard travel. I'm sure the kids got bored. Wonder what they did all day long in the bottom of a ship sailing. That'd have been tough. And Thanksgiving is land at last. A new land, New England. I'm sure they were so excited when they saw land. Maybe, too, they were a little nervous. Other people had traveled to the New World and brought back stories and information, so they were probably excited and nervous at the same time. I would be for sure. But they were probably so ready to get off that boat. Thanksgiving is a hard winter in a cold land. It is a lot of work for all. When they got there, it was December. It was cold and the ground was hard, so building houses to try to they had to get off the ship because the ship had to go back to England. So what they did was build one house called the Common House, where everybody was going to stay until the spring, when they could build a little neighborhood, all their houses, and work together. It's very cold. Pilgrim fathers cut down trees. Pilgrim brothers gather thatch. That's for the roof. That was like a grass, maybe some leaves that they flattened to put on the roofs of the house. That was their roof. Pilgrim sisters help pilgrim mothers, and all pray for help from God. Because they were very religious, they believed they could ask for help from God. Thanksgiving is men with muskets off to hunt. Bang, bang, bang. Guns glint in the sun. Fresh meat at last. And their weapon was called a musket. And what shot out of it was a musket ball. And they had to put powder in it. It's different from the guns we use today. Thanksgiving is Samoset and Squanto, the Pilgrims' first friends. These were Indians. Squanto did not belong to the Wampanoag Indian tribe, but he joined up with them because his tribe all died of a sickness called smallpox. He had been away. He had been taken to New England, Spain, and when he returned, all his tribe had died. How sad is that? So he joined up with the Wampanoag. He could speak English because he had traveled to England, so he was able to communicate with the Pilgrims, who definitely needed help in the new land with their planting and their fishing. He showed them how to catch eel and fish and how to plant. He would dig a hole, put the seed in, put three little fish in for fertilizer. He really helped. Without the help of Samoset and Squanto, it would have been hard for the Pilgrims to survive. Thanksgiving is corn seed in hills and gnats in the sun. So God did send help. Cool. Thanksgiving is many hands, Pilgrim hands and Indian hands, big hands and small hands. And Thanksgiving is many hands together. Working together, planting, growing, harvesting, and preparing for the winter. Everybody has to work. Thanksgiving is a pilgrim harvest in the fall. Harvest is when you gather all of the plants, the fruits, the vegetables that have been growing all summer. It's time to gather them and prepare for the season of winter. So you harvest or bring all of the food in, or it's going to die on the vine. Harvest, and the harvest is good. Baskets of corn, baskets of nuts, bushels of beans and squash. Fish salted for winter, that's how they preserved it, then placed in casks. Wild fowl, which would be birds like turkeys, ducks on spits. So a spit would be a stick or some kind of a long rod, and you put the bird on it and you roast it over a fire. They didn't have ways to cook food like we do. They would cook it over an open fire. Interesting. There's those thatched roofs. So this is their little town that they built after when the spring came. They were able to start building houses, a little neighborhood, gardens. They all had to work together with the help of two friends. Thanksgiving is a feast for 3 days. I told you. After the harvest. And Thanksgiving is pilgrims and Indians together. On that first feast, harvest feast, there were 90 Indians that came, and they brought 5 deer. Interesting. Thanksgiving is gifts with ribbons more than 300 Novembers ago. Thanksgiving is land and harvest. I think I calculated that we are at 403 years from the first Thanksgiving to this Thanksgiving. Wow, that's a holiday that has definitely endured and lasted. It's a special time. So it's definitely still with us. Thanksgiving today is from Thanksgiving back then. There's definitely a connection, but we've made it our own with our own things we're thankful for and our own new traditions. One of them is football. Although they did have games back in the day, in the first harvest feast, they had challenges and games, and they traded with the Indians. Yeah, it was fun. It is grandma's and grandpa's uncles and aunts. It is turkey with gravy and pumpkin pie. It is football and friends and big parades. It is a day to say thanks for blessings all over our land. Again, we have a lot of Thanksgiving foods that may have been on the first Thanksgiving harvest feast table, but there was definitely some different traditions for them or different available foods. So because they lived by the ocean and a bay, there were lots of seafood options that I'm sure were enjoyed. What about you? What if your mom brought out lobster, clams, nuts, berries, and fish for Thanksgiving? Would you be surprised? Yeah, I would be too. Sounds kind of good though. It is the 4th Thursday in November, and so it is Thanksgiving. We've got a picture of back then and now. And you know, there were children in 1620. So during the first Thanksgiving, there were children in 1620, and they played. And we do today too. So what do you do on Thanksgiving? What's your favorite? Let's reflect for just a minute. First of all, what's something that you're thankful for? Shout it out. Next question, what is your favorite Thanksgiving food? Did you say pumpkin pie? Mine is turkey. I love turkey and cranberry sauce on Thanksgiving. What about you? Do you like turkey? Or on your Thanksgiving table, do you have some different foods? Some people like ham. They like hot buttery rolls. Some people have lots of different foods that their family enjoys, and they try new recipes every year. My family always likes us to try something new, but they like the old traditions. What about green bean casserole? We eat turkey, oh so good, oh so good. Always on Thanksgiving, always on Thanksgiving. Yum, 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 yum. Well, thanks for joining. I'm thankful that you joined me to find out a little bit more about Thanksgiving and to enjoy Thanksgiving is with me. All right. Until our next time together, as always, let's be thankful in the month of November. If you're a turkey, you might be thankful that you're not on the table. But let's be thankful. Let's enjoy the last days of the season of fall, because you know the leaves are quickly coming down. Get out there and play. Maybe you're going to play a game of football. Maybe you're going to jump in the leaves and enjoy your Thanksgiving. As always, have a good one. I'll see you real soon.